Are we surprised? Or are we not surprised? That's what I could say about this story at the same time here. As I'm back with some CFL news, and once again, talking about Johhny Manziel and Johnny Football here. Got released. The headline originally said on my smartphone here, this has happened on Wednesday around lunchtime, Wednesday, February the 27th here. So a notification from TSN that said Montreal Alouettes released quarterback Johhny Manziel. And then they click more for details. I'm going to say that's really only half true, but the Montreal Alouettes did release Johhny Manziel. In fact, it was the league that released Johhny Manziel, because the league told the Montreal Alouettes to release him, and at the same time the league told all the other clubs they will not honor a contract if any team attempts to sign Johhny Manziel. And now I've had a couple days to look at the story, and also watched a lot of other videos on YouTube, especially from American sports networks and radio personalities on what their take on this. And it's surprising, but not surprising at the same time, that ultimately Johhny Manziel got released by the CFL. That's what I'm going to call this video, that Johhny Manziel was actually released by the CFL and essentially banned. But, obviously you know the story, the backstory about, he's the Heisman winner quarterback, and he was drafted first round by the Cleveland Browns, and he essentially is labeled as a NFL bust at this point. And he's famous and infamous for all the partying, all the drugs, all the domestic violence that essentially, he fizzled as the Cleveland Browns starting quarterback. And Cleveland Browns were definitely been struggling the last few years in the NFL, that he was going down the depth chart, and eventually he wasn't gaining traction in the NFL, and the Hamilton Tiger Cats originally put him on their negotiation list to potentially sign him, but then he had to go through extensive, interview process with Commissioner Randy Ambrosie, to eventually, where the CFL say, okay, you could sign and play in our league, but not until 2018. And he kept trying his luck, trying out for NFL teams, spring leagues, before he finally signed with the Hamilton Tiger Cats. And then he got traded to the Montreal Alouettes, because it was a steal of a deal, I guess, for the Hamilton Tigers. I also looked back at my video where I talked about the trade, and you know what? Hamilton has won that trade hands down now, big time, because one of the pieces, Landon Rice, actually was back with Hamilton in time for Labor Day, and those 2 first-round picks. At least Tony Washington got re-signed with the Montreal Alouettes, so there's at least still one piece from that Johhny Manziel trade. But, he didn't set the league on fire either, because he only threw for, I think the exact number was 1,290 yards, just under 1,300 yards, and 6 starts with the Montreal Alouettes, 5 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Keep in mind that 4 of those interceptions came in the first half in the first game that he started. And of course that game was on ESPN2, and I think his chances of getting back in the NFL has really taken a nosedive here. And now that he's on for record that he's banned from the CFL, that isn't going to look well on his record here. But there could potentially be other options here, and this is where this story has a few layers to it, because as part of his conditions, I'll put conditions in quotation marks, because of, all the special circumstances, all the off-field stuff that Johhny Manziel had. Apparently there was an extensive list of conditions that he had to abide to stay eligible to play in the CFL, and what prompted this decision that the league to release Johhny Manziel to Montreal Alouettes. They were just doing what they were told. Yeah, they released him at the end of the day, but they were told by the league that they did not meet one of those conditions, and there was definitely secretive, but maybe if you go to 3 Down Nation, which is kind of the blog for following any tidbits or any gossip or any rumors about the Canadian Football League, apparently it said something about he missed meetings. Well, we don't know if that's exactly it, but I know that the association, the Alliance, American Football, the AAF, the league that recently started, and apparently they're already in financial trouble because I heard that the current Carolina Hurricanes owner of the NHL team gave the league $250 million US, so that's almost $300 million Canadian. I'm Canadian, and that's what I mean by US dollars, that to just keep that league afloat. And apparently all 8 teams were already interested in working out, and apparently he has rights with the San Antonio team, but the AAF is actually hold off saying, well, let's see what exactly he did to get released from the CFL. And in some odd way, I think Johhny Manziel wanted this for potentially the AAF and the XFL to, maybe, but I think very, very unlikely to get in the NFL there, because there was also worried about, he does have bipolar disorder, and yeah, he had all this baggage, but those meetings that apparently he missed was to keep him in the straight and narrow, that the word said. But apparently there was conditions that he had to go see doctors and therapies once a week, and because of his bipolar disorder, that they had to check, for lithium tests in his body for making sure he's keeping his drugs up to date there. But it sounds like he had very extensive conditions, but didn't hear anything about any domestic charges or drugs up to this point when up here in Canada. He was a model teammate, and didn't hear anything extraordinary or unusual. This is Johhny Manziel, and heck, all the buzz and hype that he had coming to play in Canada and how close he was followed there. Heck, there probably were people dedicated to tell the world when he tied his shoes, put his helmet on, put his pad on, when he eats, when he drinks, when he farts, when he burps, when he coughs, when he sneezes, on top of seeing him, practicing and going to his scrimmages at training camp there. And then, as I said, the reason why he got traded to Montreal was Jeremiah Masoli was playing great for the Hamilton Tiger Cats there, that Johhny Manziel did earn his spot on the team, but as a backup quarterback, and he was never going to play. And Montreal was desperate, and they definitely really rolled the dice, but unfortunately they lost there because they don't have those 2 first-round picks in that trade anymore. But this is just a very, very strange story here. But it's also kind of unfortunate at the same time because Johhny Manziel didn't necessarily lit the league on fire there, but he was in a tough situation with the Montreal Alouettes not being a strong team there. But I felt he was getting a little better here, and given that he's a scrambling quarterback, that he could have had the potential that once he got more comfortable in the Canadian game, that he can use his scrambling ability to his advantage, and potentially could have been a strong quarterback in the CFL, but won't get to see that anymore. And sucks as a Stampeder fan, the only glimpse I got to see of Johhny Manziel was, because we played actually the Hamilton Tiger Cats last season first at home at the home opener, and all I got to see of Johhny Manziel was him wearing his Hamilton Tiger Cats gear, practice and warm up, and then sitting on the bench. And then we did play the Montreal Alouettes in the summer there, but it was a week before they made that trade there, and Eastern teams only come out here to Calgary once, and so I didn't get to see Johhny Manziel play live, and I didn't catch any games out east last summer. And he did actually play in my Calgary Stampeders on Thanksgiving there, and actually I think in that game, Calgary didn't play that well, and he actually passed for more yards than Bo did, but Calgary still won because our defense was all over Montreal, and he got sacked 6 times there. And that's the other side of the story too with Johhny Manziel, is there's another video you can find on YouTube where he was a little frustrated he wasn't getting the playing time there because he had his disastrous first game with 4 interceptions there, and then the next game he looked a little better and used some scrambling ability, and it looked like he almost ran in a touchdown against the Ottawa Red Blacks, but then he got hit at the 1-yard line and had a concussion there, and then he was out with concussion protocol, and then Antonio Pitkin, who's actually looking like he's going to be the starting quarterback for the Montreal Alouettes here now that Johnny's on. Then he was coming back for his concussion there, and then there was a big story about why he missed a few practices there when the team said, well, he had the flu. It's like, well, he's human, believe it or not, he's human just like the rest of us. He gets sick, but, he had the flu, he missed practice, and then he had that frustration about, why he's not playing. They gave up so much for him, but that was really the only drama that he got about Johhny Manziel in the CFL there. And I mean, this has just been a weird story. I conclude that I think he purposely found the littlest things to try to breach his conditions to stay in the CFL and hopefully get released, and maybe the AAF or possibly the XFL might want to take a chance on this guy, because both of those, the one league is on shaky ground right now, and the XFL failed the first time, and Vince McMahon, he's built the WWF empire, but maybe he's frothing at having Johnny play in his league, because our pro wrestling is soap operas, and Johhny Manziel has definitely just been the soap opera that keeps on giving here. But because even there's another story that Randy Ambrosie, apparently he believes that he did not purposely breach his conditions, but I'm not buying that. But what's your take on this Johhny Manziel now being cut from the CFL and not allowed to play for any other team? And I personally don't think he's ever going to get back in the NFL there, and now that the CFL thing didn't work out, you can maybe say he won't totally rule out the CFL if he, somehow got in with these other leagues and smartened up and stayed out of trouble and fixed his demons, and maybe he'll get reinstated. But I don't know. This is. I never thought I was going to make one, never mind two videos about Johhny Manziel, but I felt like I have to as a CFL fan, and potentially the Calgary Stampeders as well. But if you enjoy everything I do on my YouTube channel, just make sure you hit like, subscribe. I also talk sports, do personal vlogs, and post everything else in between there. But what's your take on this whole Johhny Manziel story? Now he's a free agent again and trying to get back to the States where he's comfortable, but the hype machine, I'd say, has gotten too hot. Eventually it's broken down, and I just wish things worked out a little better for him, because I thought there was potential there, and maybe gets wanted or unwanted press with the CFL. But I know a lot of Americans have been following this just because of the name, and I've seen enough takes from American journalists, sports journalists, that I've come to the conclusions I am. So anyway, I'll see you in the next video.